everyone, we are Group 3 and I'm Claire. Today our presentation is about the WorldCom case. So the key person of this case is Cynthia Cooper, the former Vice President of Internal Audit at WorldCom. This case mainly tells us a story of how Cynthia unraveled a huge amount of fraud and sent one of the country's largest and most visible companies to bankruptcy. At first, Cynthia Cooper enjoyed the rising status of the company and its brilliant prospect with a high salary and bright future. The CEO, Bernie Ebbers, who totally disliked internal controls and banned the use of this term, together with WorldCom CFO Scott Sullivan, make the whole internal audit team only focus on the efficiency of operations and leaving all the financial audit-related tasks to an external auditor, Arthur Anderson. During 1990s, the WorldCom's earnings began to fall, and at that point of time, a worried executive, one of Cynthia Cooper's colleagues, told her that there was something wrong with WorldCom's consolidated income. However, CFO, CEO, as well as the external auditor, all of them told Cynthia that there was nothing wrong with the accounting treatment, and their attitude made Cynthia even more suspect about this issue. Faced with tremendous resistance, pressure, and even intimidation, Cynthia and her team secretly worked on the project and finally unraveled the key aspects of the fraud, that the company reported a profit of $2.4 billion when they actually suffered a loss of $662 million. After that, Cynthia contacted the audit committee to report this issue. During the whole process, she suffered a lot from huge pressure and depression, and it was facing the crisis of a lifetime. Fortunately, after a long time compete, the audit committee announced the fraud to the public and unraveling of the manipulation of WorldCom company, which made the company went bankruptcy. As a reaction to a number of major corporate and accounting scandals, this act was enacted to mandate certain practices that are related to financial records. And the Section 301.4 of this act, which is associated with compliance, is shown on the screen. This section of the act mandatorily requires each audit committee to establish complaint procedures, for example, to provide guidelines and channels for whistleblowers, and therefore to make it easier and more convenient for individuals who has the intention to disclose their concerns about accounting manipulations or to unravel frauds. In addition, this section of Act also requires each audit committee to keep the personal information of issuers confidential and anonymous. This requirement can prevent whistleblowers from tremendous resistance, pressure, and even intimidation, and also it kind of encourages individuals who have discovered any accounting frauds to disclose it, since they do not have to pay a high price for that. Unlike Cynthia Cooper, who have suffered a lot from unraveling a huge fraud, the whistleblowers under the protection of Section 301.4 of this Act may keep their normal daily lives from disturbing. To sum up, with the Section 301.4 of the Act, the accounting procedures could be better supervised and regulated, since people can become a whistleblower more easily and less costly.
About question 2, key characteristics for the operation of an effective corporate whistleblower hotlines are 1. Anonymity and confidentiality. 2. No whistleblower retaliation. 3. Incentive. 4. Multi-channel and easy accessibility. 5. Whistleblower know why the whistleblower hotline is important and how they will be supported. 6. Clear policy, publicity, training, and the whistleblower hotline is easy to use. 7. Senior support. 8. The whistleblower hotline should be managed by an independent third-party supplier. 9. Regular testing and evaluation of the whistleblower hotline. 10. Follow-up. 11. Other stakeholders can also use the whistleblower hotline. Potential pitfalls that should be avoided include 1. The whistleblower hotline policy is not clear and lacks training. 2. No follow-up. 3. Whistleblower retaliation. 4. Use the wrong team.
Okay, let me talk about questions 3 to 5. Firstly, as can be seen, the third question is about the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing. The first standard we want to introduce is independence and objectivity. Independence is a freedom from conditions that threaten the ability of internal audit activity to carry out internal audit responsibility in an unbiased manner. To achieve the degree of independence necessary to effectively carry out the responsibility of the internal audit activity, the chief audit executive has access to senior management and the board. Objectivity is an unbiased mental attitude that allows internal auditors to perform engagement in such a manner that they believe in their work, and that no quality compromises are made. The second one is organizational independence. Organizational independence is effectively achieved when the chief audit executive reports functionally to the board. The internal audit active must be free from interference in determining the scope of internal auditing, performing work, and communication results. The chief audit executive must disclose such interference to the board and discuss the implications. The third one is direct interaction with the board. According to this standard, the chief audit executive must be able to communicate and interact directly with the board. In Section 406 of Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, it guides the SEC issues rules requiring all public companies to disclose whether their senior financial officers comply with the Code of Ethics or not. Afterwards, the SEC issued a final rule. Disclosure required by Section 406 and 407 of Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 under the instruction of Section 406 of Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. The final rule expands the scope of disclosure. It states that CEO, CFO, and other peoples. This page is about some detailed rules of the questions, and for the time limitation, I don't extend too much for this page. Okay, let me introduce question 5. Why these whistleblowers face much hardship when bringing the inappropriate actions of others to light? Firstly, when they are in the process of working to find the evidence of the truth to the public, they will hurt many people's interests, and usually it will bring them something awful, like threats and hurt in many possible ways, causing much pressure on other people's. On the other hand, lack of official protection in many situations will make them stressful and afraid to being whistleblowers as well. Additionally, in many situations, they may bear potential risk of losing lots of their own interests being whistleblowers. For instance, Cooper was very likely to lose her job and could not find another similar job in that business environment for being a betrayer once in the company. Also, once they make the decision to be a whistleblower, they have to go through plenty of investigation to prove their reports and conclusions, sometimes even required to involve in a lawsuit. With no doubt, those processes will take lots of personal time and are very troublesome for individuals, leading to stress, which cannot be avoided.
An effective whistleblower should hold the following characteristics. First is professionalism. In our case, Cynthia held her professional skepticism, and she was able to assess and lead her team to investigate the fraud. The next is, as a whistleblower often be questioned by others, so we need confidence and domainness to overcome some opponent and often become less possible to be manipulated by others. And the third, whistleblower needs strong self-discipline to take on responsibility and to sacrifice our own benefit for the whole. And fourth is, whistleblower need to address conviction and courage to overcome challenge, pressure, and complaints from seniors, employees, and other related state parties. And fifth is communication skills. In our case, Cynthia, she communicated with the boss, the audit community, and some external auditors. Our advice for an employer who suspects a fraud is, first, accumulate more evidence for confirmation. Evidence could include working papers, one-on-one talk with employees in that department, and also comment from his supervisors. And second, we need to analyze the results that we gather with professional judgment and analytical tools like decision trees. And third is storing and documenting the evidence and analytical results for future use. And when the fraud is confirmed, then we need to assess the loss of the company, like goodwill and so on. And also on the financial statement of any figure mistakes or misstatements. And fifth is enforce punishment or determine the contract with this employee. And the last, if the fraud is on the financial statement, we should be responsible to our investors. We could take more proactive act by asking internal or external auditor to issue a report on the fraud and disclose this issue to our investors.
About the question 8, SOX Section 302 focuses mainly on the responsibilities of primary and signing officers. The primary officers are required to certify reports that it has been reviewed, contains no untrue statements, and fairly present, while the signing officers is responsible for internal controls, ensuring it works effectively. Besides, the officers should disclose all significant deficiencies of internal controls. And in one opinion, SOX could deter Sullivan's actions by eliminating the easiness of fraud. After investigation, it was found that fake documents are lack of signature authorization, and since reports are required to be reviewed by the signing officers, it guarantees that Sullivan's fraud could be easily discovered if there is a lack of signature. During the investigation, WorldCom was also reported to have a weak internal control, and weak internal control is the main cause of fraud, but SOX set high requirements on it. Therefore, this could prevent fraud before they appear.
Carbon oxide acts as an example. Though it improves its disclosure issue, its effectiveness for fraud remains for discussion. Let's talk about its effectiveness. The first is greater fraud penalty. The maximum fine and term for security fraud has doubled, and the punishment for mail and wire fraud has quadrupled. And second, it gives the audit community more leverage in supervising the management's accounting decision and new duties, including approving a wide range of audit and non-audit service, selecting and overseeing external auditors, addressing complaints to the management's accounting practice. The third is require management to certify financial report accuracy. Any deliberate phony certification could render heavy punishment. Fourth, it required the public listed companies to disclose any material off-balance arrangement and any pro forma statement under the GAAP. Insider must also report any stock transaction to SEC within 2 business days. And fifth is put new criminal conspiracy and whistleblower protection in place. Sixth is establish the PCAOB to issue standards for public accounting and to require lead audit partners to rotation every 5 years for the same public company. Its ineffectiveness, SOC has led to significant higher compliance costs, especially for the smaller companies, and also distraction of personnel from core business and discouraging growth. And the internal control tests and reports, they need tremendous effort and involvement of not only external auditors, but also experienced IT professionals. The method problem, our answer is both. The regulation and other legal reforms plays an essential role in the deterrence toward potential frauds in that they make up relative loopholes in laws and increase the fraud costs. Meanwhile, preliminary understanding and public acknowledgement is necessary. Therefore, the skill level and community level education should be properly designed and the continued professional education should also be delivered.